Welcome IBSF. I'm John Napier. This is Julia Herman. She's going to give us a lovely tour of the Lake Placid Olympic Museum today.
Yep. And first we're standing in the Miracle Plaza, which is the first floor of the Olympic Center. And if you look just right over there, we have the famous Miracle on Ice scoreboard that shows the score between the USA and the Soviets at the end of their semifinal game at the 1980 Olympics.
Cool. What do you say we go into the museum?
Thank you. So we first really enter into a lot of the historical context behind the Olympics. We really wanted to give visitors that context before throwing them into Lake Placid sports and Olympic history. So we kind of just jump into Lake Placid and how they kind of got their name on the winter sports world, especially with the Snowbirds, the Lake Placid Club, and their speed skating competitions.
And I love that you still have a picture of tobogganing here because it brings us back to the roots. And there still is a 2-story tall toboggan chute in Lake Placid that people can come and slide on in the winter when the lake is frozen over.
Oh yeah, definitely. We really wanted to show that, there are still parallels between way back then and nowadays. So
what do we have there?
Yep, so we have Godfrey Dewey, who was pretty instrumental in bringing the 1932 games to Lake Placid. He was part of the Snowbirds and he was very active in bobsledding.
Very neat.
And then we just kind of go over and show about how Lake Placid went about winning the 1932 games, with Godfrey Dewey going to the St. Moritz Games in 1928, just to really understand how countries form that Olympic bid. And then we kind of talk about how the facilities were built, and as you know, in 1932, that was one of the big years of the Great Depression, so just getting that money and everything to build those facilities was a very big moment for the town.
Now this picture I see superimposed in the background, this is pre-1932, right?
Correct.
So this was at the ski jump location.
Yes, yeah. So we just really wanted to show people how those venues transformed before the 1932 games came.
Prior to 1932 Olympics, the bobsled track wasn't out Mount von Hovenberg. It was actually in town at a ski jump location. And I don't believe it was a full mile, was it?
Sounds right, yeah. Yeah, and then we just kind of did each exhibit on each event for 1932. A lot of our kids loved the hockey stuff from 1932 with Franklin Farrell, just to really see how that equipment has evolved over the years.
Well, shoot, back then bobslers were wearing open-face leather football helmets, so
pretty much,
we've evolved a little bit. There you go.
Yeah. It's not like the most attractive looking helmet, but I guess it got the job done back then.
And the little history I see here about the Stevens brothers, who won in Lake Placid in a 2-man event, and then obviously Billy Fisk, who won the 4-man bobsled event in Lake Placid at the 32 Olympics. Billy Fisk was also very famous for American history because he was the first American to perish in World War II.
Yes.
He volunteered for the RAF and flew fighter planes, and unfortunately crash landed and perished. So he was the first.
Battle of Britain, right?
Battle of Britain. He was the first American to pass in World War II, and also Olympic gold medalist in the 32 games in the 4-man event.
And just a little fun fact about the Stevens brothers too, they also used a technique with like a flame to kind of heat the sliders on their sleds. That's now not really an approved practice.
They would torch their runners, yeah.
Yeah, they did do that in 32.
Very neat. All right.
Yeah.
So what do we have over this way?
So this is our interactive section, which is brand new. We really wanted to show what it takes to be an Olympian, the dedication, the heart, the passion it takes. And we also really wanted to highlight our local Olympians. So we have a list of local Olympians, the years they've competed, and then on this side of the wall we also highlight the Olympians that went to Beijing that are from Lake Placid.
Very neat.
So we really wanted to give visitors that sense of what it's like to be an Olympic competitor. So we have a ski jump interactive where visitors can kind of see what ski jumpers see as they're going down the jump. We have oral histories with our local Olympians. You might recognize someone on there,
look.
Sean. Yep.
There we are.
Yep. Yep, and then we also have a bobsled interactive, which has been very popular. Our exhibit designers kind of worked with this really fancy camera rig and strapped it on a bobsled at Van Ho. And
this is an old clamshell body. They used to call these clamshells, where the front and the rear articulated some of the early articulating sleds. Can I ride it?
Oh, go for it, yes.
I think so. Oh. You just push the button, huh?
Yep.
All right. And it's funny that I started in sleds of this era.
Right?
The training. Look at this. This is neat. Yeah. That's cool. Wow. Now I still take trips down Lake Placid, but this is a pretty realistic view of what it looks like. This is the Devil's Highway we're going through, 5, 6, 7, 8. Curve 7 right there is the highest G corner on the Lake Placid track where you hit 6 G's of force. Now we're coming out of 9 into Shady 2 curve. Curve 10, the tallest turn on the Lake Placid track. Into the section we call a labyrinth, 11, 12, a very difficult turn in 4-man, 13. And then curve 14, Benham's Bend, named after Greg Benham. Into the chicane. And this is the heart section of the track with curve 17, 18, this one coming up being a very tricky corner, and then curve 19. One more and we're through the finish. And that's the finish. Very neat ride.
My gosh, it was crazy hearing you narrate it, because when I sat in it for the first time, it was just going so fast. I couldn't imagine trying to like pilot that. So yeah, the kids have all really loved this. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful experience. That's neat.
Yeah. And then we also worked with, you might know him, Josh Williamson.
Yep.
He kind of gave us his schedule for training, just to kind of give people a sense of, how much training it takes, what their travel competition schedule looks like, what their like eating habits look like when they're training, just to really give people that kind of sense of what a day in the life looks like.
It really, what people don't realize is it really does take complete dedication, 110%. Nutritionally, exercise science, sports physiology, the whole deal, the technology, the equipment, and just the passion too. You have to have the passion. Yeah. And I guess that's what keeps people like me around, is the passion for it, and now giving back to others, and you're giving back to the community, showing them what the Olympic movement and spirit is about. Yeah,
we're definitely trying, and the little kids seem to get it when asked what they would give up to go for gold. This little boy kept putting tokens in junk food, and I said, "You would really give up McDonald's?" And he goes, "If it means I could have a gold medal, then sure." And I was like, "Okay, I like that."
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of more or less wraps up our interactive section. And then most people will just move straight into design in the Olympics. We really wanted to show here how each host city has their own unique identity for the games. So we really highlight the torches, the medals. We have a whole pin display case. Those drawers pull out, John, if you want to pull one of them out. They show original design work from 1980, because as you know, they didn't really do the whole computer graphics back then. It was all done by hand.
Wow. Very neat. Some of the original concepts for the torch design, and that's neat. Very, very neat stuff. Yeah. I feel like I want to look at it all. Very cool.
Yeah, and those are the designs for the participation medal.
For the medal, yeah. Wow. That's very neat. There you go. Very neat.
Yeah, and so then we just kind of move into the torches, which is probably one of our more popular items on display. The first torch relay started in 1936 at the Summer Games in Berlin, and the first winter torch relay was in 1952 in Oslo, Norway. So we really wanted to give visitors a sense to see all the different sides of the torches, so that's why our exhibit design company came up with this really cool glass case, so you can see all the details from every angle pretty much.
It's very neat, very neat. Yeah. Then we obviously have the opening ceremonies attire of the 80 Olympics, right?
Yep, volunteer uniforms designed by ASICS. Yep, this is kind of just showing like the design details that go into everything. So we had the torch prototypes for the 1981 and all that good stuff.
Some of the U.S. athletes' attire, I recognize that jacket.
Right? Yep, those have been pretty popular as well. And then we have just under 800 pins in this case. In 1980, pin trading really exploded as like the #1 spectator sport. It was cheap, everyone could participate in it. So. And
pin trading amongst the athletes is a thing too at the Olympics. You like to collect all the pins and trade with your different nations and counterparts, and it's really, really neat. And so it's cool that it's something the public can take away from the Olympics as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then we just have our medal case, same design concept as the torch case. Really wanted all our visitors to see all the different angles and the details that the designers put into the medals. So
very, very neat.
yeah. And then we just kind of transition into 1980. We have this big archway case with the torch relay uniforms that the runners wore in 1980, as well as the Team USA Levi's opening ceremony uniform and the hostess uniform as well. And then because in 1980 all the venues were color-coded with their tickets, we decided to kind of tie that in so each venue is color-coded with their ticket color.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so like 1932, each event has its own exhibit with plenty of room for growth. Yeah.
And then we see the sliding sports, the cool ones over here, the good stuff with luge and bobsled. And in 1980, a lot of people didn't know there were two separate tracks here. There was a luge track and then a bobsled track. So we had two distinct separate tracks, one for luge, one for bobsled, and it's pretty neat. Now you can still ride the mountain coaster that we have installed that shadows the 1980 Olympic track over at Mount Van Hoevenberg. So it's a pretty cool experience where the public can come and get a feel for the venue and the 1980 Olympics. Yeah.
And then we just go into figure skating. Linda Fratiani's dress is a big hit, silver medalist in 1980 for women's singles. And then Eric Heiden, he didn't have his own big exhibit last time, so we really wanted to give him the space that he deserves. So we got some video footage of all his races, and we've got
And Eric Heiden won gold in, I believe, 5 events? 5 speed skating events at the 1980 Olympics.
Yeah, that most likely probably won't happen again for a while because most speed skaters, I believe, now train for just a single discipline, not all 5. So hopefully his records will, that 5 gold medal record will stand for a while. And then we just move into our Miracle on Ice. This is obviously one of our big exhibits that a lot of people come to see. So we've got the ticket from the 1980 game. We tried to make the copy really dynamic just to give people that sense of how important this game was for the country at the time. Yeah, and then we just kind of talk about normal, how the hockey tournament worked in 1980, because there was a lot of confusion that if the US played Finland in the last game, why didn't Finland win silver? So we just kind of go into that. We also have a Soviet silver medal that's kind of like our mystery object. We don't know what Soviet player left it behind, but they didn't want to take it back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's been our kind of eye-catching object a lot of people comment on.
Very neat.
Yeah, and then we have our own Miracle on Ice Theater where we worked with a great company called Orange Frame Productions, and they created this 12-minute documentary just to give visitors that sense of the Miracle game and all the history it represents. And then this is kind of our last section. It just kind of goes into the after use of Ortis facilities and just kind of really, we want to highlight how important it is that these Olympic venues are still in use, because that's not the case for a lot of past Olympic host cities. So we just want to give people a sense as they're leaving, they can go out to Mount Van Hoevenberg and, get all those experiences. They can go to the jumping complex, they can go to Whiteface. So we just really want to emphasize that there is so much more to do in Lake Placid after the museum.
Sustainability of our venues is very important, near and dear to our hearts out here, and so we like to create things where the public can take part, and like we said, in town, the public can take the toboggan chute, they can skate on the Olympic Oval, they can come out to Mount Van Hoevenberg and take bobsled rides and mountain coaster. There's all these biathlon experiences they can do, and it's important to us that we get to share that, because the spirit of the Olympics is to take part and to share that with people.
Yeah, and that's our thing, chronicling our region's Olympic legacy, so we're just happy to help contribute to that.
Cool. Well, thank you for the tour.
Yeah, no problem. I hope you enjoyed it.
Awesome.